SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Toyota Brookhaven services all makes and models. That could be why we were voted best service department the past 2 years. Come see why. Exit 40 Brookhaven or online at ToyotaBrookhaven.com. Great service, great savings. At Toyota Brookhaven, we deliver.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man, way past 21.
What's shaking? Thursday morning. Hello, good morning to you. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for starting your day with us. Thanks for spending a little time just hanging out. I'm Richard Cross. Good morning, is Lance Tolbert.
Hey, good morning. I hope you're not getting rain up there today. I know you were hoping to get a little round of golf in at some point, but it may creep in on you.
All right, I got to share something with you, Lance.
Yeah. Or did you already do that?
No,
golf?
That would have been quite the early start.
Top
we don't
golf,
have no night golf here. So when you ask me if I want to play golf or if, playing golf today, there is a chance that the answer is always yes.
Hey, I'm in, man.
About, am I playing?
Yeah.
And 100% of the time when the answer is, do you want to play, the answer is yes.
Right. Well,
so that doesn't make today any more different or unique.
Hey, well, my mother, who's 78, got her first trip to the Ridgeland Top Golf. It was a corporate meeting for her and her teams, and
yeah.
She had a blast, man. I was like, did you hit any golf balls? She goes, well, of course. I mean, I did a lot better than a lot of people did. And she grew up with a golf club. So, but yeah, she had a blast. So, if you just like hitting balls like me, I don't really care to score because that's usually embarrassing. But I like hitting them. That's the fun part. So I think I might have to make a trip over there to the Top Golf and iron out some kinks maybe.
There we go.
It's like a mall with a driving range, I think. So.
I think I still owe you a lunch from months and months ago. So maybe maybe that's what we should do. Go to Topgolf.
I think that would be a great deal, man.
Little lunch, we'll play a little bit, and it'll be fun.
Iron the kinks out too. Yeah, I might swing and miss on the first couple, but after that, I'll start connecting.
Unfortunately, there is rain in the forecast.
Yes, I know.
For much of the state of Mississippi, and the northwest corner and parts of the Delta got some rain last night with that big line of storms. That it was interesting. It's like as it crossed the Mississippi River, it started sliding kind of severely northeast and didn't really get into the state that much. South Haven, you got thunderstorms this morning, then cloudy skies later in the day. High of 80 with winds out of the southwest at about 20 miles an hour. Chance of rain 60%. Fulton. Going to be cloudy there with an early chance of thunderstorms, or cloudy early, and then a chance of thunderstorms developing later in the day. Few storms could be severe, so keep a heads up in Fulton. High of 78, winds out of the south-southwest at 10 to 15. Your chance of rain, 70%. Pedal, not too bad today. Cloudy, stray shower or thunderstorm possible. 85 degrees for the high. Winds out of the south. And Indy Iberville, scattered thunderstorms this morning, partly cloudy later in the day. You can expect a little bit of mist and some reduced visibility at times, especially this morning. 83 for the high, winds out of the south at 10 to 20 miles per hour. It's a coin flip, 50-50 chance on the rain today for you in D'Iberville. Man, it was nice yesterday. We were in Philadelphia for the Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation's Feeding the Hungry fundraiser and festival. They had a big time. I stayed until about lunchtime.
Of course, yeah.
Which is a bit of a misnomer because lunch was not ready at lunchtime.
Uh-huh. They started early, too. I know you had one trailer was out there smoking it out at about 6 a.m.
Yeah. I'm wondering if he was like burning something off the old grates and just getting the early fire going and then built a second one. I did have a couple of wings that were done, came off early. But the boys that ate were Borky and Hey Dad. Man, did you listen at all yesterday afternoon?
For a few minutes, about the first hour, yeah.
I caught a little bit of the 5 o'clock hour. They came back for break, and Borky was like, well, it's just me. I was like, oh, he's making a joke about Hey Dad going to grab something to eat and forgot to come back from the commercial break. Nope.
Gone.
Hey Dad went and judged the rib competition.
Oh, he was in. That's awesome.
Like full on, he was the judge. Missed the entire segment, commercial, the whole deal. So they had a big time.
Sounds like a good job to be involved in. I love a good rib. I could judge a rib, yeah, if you ever need any help with that.
You know, it's rare that you're wrong, Lance. I think you were wrong yesterday.
What did I?
I think Tim McGraw's birthday is actually today,
it is.
not yesterday.
I've
but
done
you know
that
what?
before.
Some guys are so good that you just celebrate it for a couple of days.
I would celebrate 2 of his birthday, but yeah, it happened to be in both. So yeah, that's my fault for not double checking and making sure I'm bringing the most accurate information. Now I will ride on that one. That's my fault.
All right. So we're even now. Yeah. So you were a day off on one birthday yesterday. And on Monday, I think I was a year off on every birthday that we looked at.
Sometimes they do that to you. You know, they throw the tricks on you. Yeah. It was but you know, it was a Wednesday, getting over the hump. Y'all are having a big time. I was here. You know, everybody's having fun. Even in the office, people were coming in, and I was like, "Hey, what's up? Oh, we're on the way up there." They were all bailing out at 10. I said, "Yeah, I didn't get that invitation," but I will say, when they do cook on the big grill here, I'll go back in the office and put on my camo Farm Bureau hat and get like a golf shirt, maroon golf shirt, and walk out there and pretend like I'm from another office. Yeah, I'm John from accounting over there at the other office. Oh, come on in. Yeah. So eat some burgers and hot dogs. Some of them know me, so they, you can't get away with it with them. But
that's right.
Yeah, I can definitely blend in. I got a couple of disguises back there in case they cook and
and they cook a lot.
John from accounting here. I'm ready. Yeah, no, just straight up burger. I'm good.
Today in 1891, the legendary pitcher Cy Young won his first game played at Cleveland's League Park. It was the Cleveland Spiders 12, the Cincinnati Redlegs 3.
The Redlegs.
There's another big baseball moment today.
Yeah.
In 1920, legendary slugger Babe Ruth. Hey, guys, who's Babe Ruth? Who's Babe Ruth?
Who's Babe Ruth?
The Sultan of SWAT, the King of Crush, the Colossus of Clout, the Colossus of Clout, the Great Bambino. Oh, that guy.
Yeah, him.
Recorded his first home run for the New York Yankees in a 6-0 win over his former club, the Boston Red Sox. Take that, you dirty water drinking Boston Sox, and just shove it.
Yeah, he was already something else to begin with. You think about going to the Yankees, and then I don't remember how much he pitched with the Yankees, though. Did he ever really throw with the Yankees much? Because I know when he came up with Boston, he was a two-way guy.
Yeah,
but I don't really.
Less.
Yeah, I don't remember any of that. But I can only imagine the giant that he was as a hitter and just a personality. If he'd have been just a pitcher, can you imagine that? If he said, "No, let's just make this guy a pitcher," history would have definitely been different. But man, what a player!
Yeah, he was, you look at all the videos of him, and you're like, he could never play. He was too fat.
Yeah, I mean, with a cigar in one hand and a beer in the other. And
he was only 6'2", 215. That was big for the day.
I know, he looked so much bigger than that, right? I mean, he was barrel-chested.
Big, baggy uniform, and, that heavy wool. I
mean, he had a noggin on him, though. He looked like he could have been a prize fighter with that cinder block kind of head and broad shoulders, and maybe he was just a small-legged guy.
Yeah.
Top heavy, but it played well for his game.
He pitched parts of 4 different years.
Okay, was it 4? Gotcha.
Yeah, 25 and 20. 20 and 21, and then 30 and 33. He pitched a little bit, but not nearly like he did early in his career. With
and he was a stud too. Yeah,
I mean, 6'2", 215. He'd look scrawny standing next to Judd Utermark at 6'5", 250.
And Judd's the fastest guy on the team too.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, dude's running like a 4.4.
Babe Ruth was not.
Yeah, no, I don't think he
was not.
He might have been running from the law. Probably had an extra mile an hour you could add, but around the bases, he liked that home run trot, I think.
On this day in 1939, Batman first appeared in Detective Comics number 27. 1941, General Mills introduced Cheerios, later renamed Cheerios. Cheerios, an oat-based, ready-to-eat cold cereal. 1957, Larry King made his radio debut. His first broadcast was on the Miami Beach station WAHR 1490 AM. What a career Larry King had. And on this day in 1969, children's educational television host Fred Rogers testified before the United States Senate Subcommittee on Communications to secure funding for the creation of PBS. So there you go. We got news headlines coming up for you next. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the venom.
Good morning, everybody. Time to wake up.
Time to shine!
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Travel all around, all across this country. Met a lot of people, met a lot of friends. She got the feeling of the swamp lane running through her blood. She going back home, but she don't know when.
It occurred to me, I don't know, last night, this morning, that if you are not a 100% full-time consumer of news and information, it's almost impossible to keep up with what is going on in the world today.
Isn't it? I mean, it's the news cycle is fast. You forget about stuff that happened yesterday.
You do, Lance, and it struck me that it's like, gosh, we got a pretty big responsibility. Because what we're supposed to do as 100% of the time consumers of the news and everything that's going on is sift through it all and then decide, what makes it outside the cutting room floor for presentation here. And it's just like, good gravy, it never stops.
Feels like, the heyday of cartoons, when they're filming like 1,000 of them and you got all these guys and they're cutting and clipping and doing all this and gluing it all together.
Where's Bugs Bunny? Yeah, we need to pull that one out.
That's the good one. Everybody wants that
Mickey
one.
Mouse, we'll keep you.
Well, I mean, and you get things like this that just kind of get slipped in. Well, the U.S. and Ukraine actually sign a mineral deal.
Yes,
it just
that's a perfect example. Yeah. That is a perfect example. For months now, we're trying to get the war to end. They finally got the minerals deal done.
Yeah.
It finally got sold. Now, it was a massive story when you have the lack of decorum in the White House and he goes home and they don't sign it and it all blows up and then everybody kind of shuts up and it flies under the radar and you get the picture of Trump and Vlad sitting there in the big, pretty painted room. And apparently Macron got kind of, he got stiff-armed on that deal. Did you see that? So when Trump and Macron and Zelensky had their little one-on-one, face-to-face, two chairs meeting, there was originally 3 chairs there.
Yeah.
And Macron comes walking up, and Trump was like, "Hey, pal, I'm gonna try and make this look good so you can save face, but this is an A and B conversation, so won't you see your way out?"
Okay, sir.
I mean, or something along those lines. And then it's like Macron looks to Zelensky for help, and Zelensky's like, I got nothing, man.
Oh, no, man.
I'm
and
lucky
then you get
another
here.
iconic photograph featuring Donald Trump.
Well, I mean, you hear, and it's Trump is not supporting Ukraine. He's a Russian agent. He loves Vlad. He loves Putin and their buddies. This agreement signals clearly to Russia that the Trump administration is committed to a peace process centered on free, sovereign, and a prosperous Ukraine over the long term. Sounds a little different than what you were being sold there for a while, but that's straight out of the AP, too. And I guarantee you we could go back and pull articles as we do from AP from a couple month ago, and that wouldn't have been the tone. But now that you deliver on something, that's kind of how it works with Trump. If you can just get these things done, I think you start building more consensus. But you got Waltz and Harris. They're out rattling sabers, and they're back now and warning everybody.
No, it's wonderful. We want more of them. I promise you.
I love it. Yeah, please bring this.
I have for you audio.
I missed them.
From both Timmy Walls.
Oh, man.
And Cammie Harris, she's back too.
Yeah, and they were both great too. I mean, I've missed them honestly, and it's funny because we've had so much to cover that would they have even been able to make headlines? But now that they've been kind of sitting back for a little bit, and you make your appearance, and this is the kind of appearance you make, you're like, oh God, the comedy's back. Thank you so much. We need this.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, and. You might be listening and be like, okay, you're talking about all of these news stories and all you're doing is talking around them, not talking about them. I know. And we will. But another example of huge, massive story in a vacuum, lost in the shuffle. The CEO of Ford yesterday saying, we're fully on board with what Donald Trump is doing and we support his tariff policies. Ford makes 80% of its vehicles in the United States. 400,000 of them a year.
Yeah, he says it's going to highlight their domestic production and offer more competition to consumers. How
about that?
Well, how did that happen? This is not supposed to happen this way, right?
And look, I am not trying to be in lockstep with Donald Trump. That's not who I am. But if you let it play out, as opposed to needing a result right this second, I still think it's going to be interesting to see what this looks like as it plays out.
I 100% agree with you. It's like watching a whole set of dominoes you put out over the whole neighborhood, and you click one, it's going to take a little while to get to the end. And you need all those things to kind of fall in place. And any one thing,
and you know what
could mess it up?
In that example, how many people are going to have the patience to set all the dominoes up in the first place?
That's kind of where I'm going. It takes a lot to organize and orchestrate all of this to work together flawlessly, and you need a lot of flawless execution in this because you're dealing with big deals, big things, big players, lots of egos, and it's
Kevin
delicate.
Monticello, I love your text. Success breeds success.
Yeah.
There's something to that.
That's why, y'all won't hear me feel sorry if Missouri goes 0-30 in the SEC. Go get better, work harder. Don't bring that junk here, and complain. Get to work. That's what we need to do. Just get to work. Be successful.
Good news for South Mississippians. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers will not be opening the Bonnie Carey spillway mid-flood concerns in Louisiana. Last week, we talked about it here. Delbert Hoseman appealed to the federal agency to explore all possible alternatives to opening the spillways. Forecast warned of a possible flood from the Mississippi River. However, things have gotten a little bit better. Water levels have gone down a little bit, and predicted river levels are not going to necessitate the opening of the spillway. The Bonnie Carey sits in Laplace, Louisiana, near New Orleans. Past openings had detrimental effects on marine life in the Mississippi Sound and bludgeoned the local economy, prompting officials and businesses to join forces in seeking legal action against the Army Corps of Engineers if necessary. River levels are slated to drop in Louisiana, potential crisis averted. Meanwhile, in Vicksburg, the Mississippi River crested above flood stage on Monday of this week, and according to the Warren County Emergency Management Team, floodwaters were spotted covering some roads in the River City, but water levels remain in the moderate flood warning stage in the area at this time. going to expect to recede. By mid-May, you should be completely in the clear. But sounds like good news so far.
Yeah, and I think Austin Golding was kind of talking a little bit about that as a precursor. It's all got to flow out, but once it gets going, it'll all get out of there in a hurry. So
yep, absolutely.
Yeah, good. I was hoping to get a little fishing in Issaquah County this year.
All right.
Generally, once you get a little water in there, God replenishes everything for us, and it's amazing. But you got to be able to get in there.
Senator Roger Wicker and his Democratic counterpart, Senator Michael Bennet from Colorado, partnered to introduce a bill called the Lifting Our Communities Through Advanced Liquidity for Infrastructure Act.
Definitely AI came up with that.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
You know what they're calling it? Local. The Local Act would amend the current federal tax code to restore state and local governments' ability to use advance refunding to manage bond debt, reducing borrowing costs for public infrastructure projects. Wicker says the measure would directly contribute to lowering the barrier to infrastructure improvements by state and local governments across the country. Huh?
Yeah, I mean,
here's what we're saying. Here's what we're saying. Congress working on a bill that gives cities and states the ability to refinance their house when the interest rates go down so that they can save money to do other stuff. Cool?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know we needed a law for that.
No, well, the advanced refunding in there, I'd never heard of that one, but...
Advanced refunding previously saved state and local governments billions of dollars over decades, but has been unavailable since 2017.
Okay.
Was not aware that they had taken that ability away. That seems like a stupid idea.
Well, it was you saw that a lot back in 2008. The twist is what they were calling it then, when you'd take longer-term debt and refinance it, or short-term debt that was maturing it out to longer-term debt, even if rates were a little less favorable. Because you had maturities coming, and you couldn't make the payments. Bonds are very strict, especially when municipalities. There's a sinking fund and all that stuff. So if it looks like you're not going to be able to repay some stuff, it's probably better to refinance it out and just create a new bond issue.
Yeah.
Less risk, but yeah,
and maybe
more interest you're paying over time.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe the reason you took that away is because people were taking too much advantage of that and never actually paying off the debt.
Yes, I saw that much in the world of bonds, yes.
Yeah, but freeing up cash to take advantage of lower interest rates makes a whole lot of sense, especially coming out of the interest rate environment that we've been in for the last couple of years. I hope we're coming out of it anyway. Quick time out. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. We're back after this.
Start your day right.
Good morning, America. How are you?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Well, we ride around this old town in the beat up car with the windows down. People look at her and they look at me and say that boy.
Sing to us, Mr. Stapleton. Do that thing.
Boy, he can sing them.
What are you talking about? Local and state leaders gathered Tuesday of this week for the groundbreaking of the South Point, Mississippi Industrial Park in Grenada County. It's the latest win in Mississippi's push for further economic development. Oh, just $4 billion and 2,500 jobs.
Popping up everywhere.
That's according to Governor Tate Reeves. The Hollingsworth Companies, the largest non-urban industrial real estate developer in the southeastern United States with 125 tenants across 18 states, is behind the South Point Industrial Park. On the full build-out, the new business park will offer over 2 million square feet of industrial space in 14 strategically designed buildings. Because it's being constructed along the Interstate 55 corridor in Grenada, it's got easy access to major distribution routes serving Memphis and Jackson. The hope is to attract national and international companies to the region. Since Governor Reeves took office in 2020, over $32 billion in private sector investment has flooded into the state. I have a question for you. Something I was discussing with some friends the other day. We know that Tate Reeves has his detractors. Lot of people. I don't love everything that Tate Reeves has done as governor. But here is my question. And I mean this very, very legitimately. Based on what he has done from an economic development standpoint for the state of Mississippi, 3 years from now, when his tenure ends, are we going to look at Tate Reeves as the greatest governor the state of Mississippi has ever had?
I don't know where the detractors would really be able to hang on. I don't. I know, as you say, you can't agree with everybody all the time. I mean, that's got to be contrarian on some things, but the success in bringing this sleepy state with great potential closer to what its potential is, I think really you look at the GDP numbers and the growth there and where we placed, and that is a combination and accumulation of a lot of work and effort by a lot of great people, and it's a team that he has assembled. So you got to give him credit where credit's due. And I think, yes, to answer that question, it's going to be hard to say no on that if we continue with this velocity and this inertia that we have.
And answering the question about greatness or best ever in real time is almost impossible.
Yeah.
Like you need a lens of history. There are things that have happened over the decades that you would point to. Maybe Mississippi's best governor. I mean, I don't think you're putting Ross Barnett at the top of that list. But, William Winter did some incredible things in his time as governor. Kirk Fordyce did good things as governor. Haley Barbour did good things as governor. Phil Bryant did great things as governor. But when you look at $32 billion, billion with a B, and we have lost sight collectively as to how much a billion is.
Yeah.
Because people throw 36 trillion around so often when talking about the national debt. And we hear, a lottery jackpot that's over $1 billion, and we read the billionaires list on Forbes, and it's like, it's such a common word that we have lost sight of just how much money $1 billion is. And when you say $32 billion investment into the state of Mississippi's economy in 5.5 years, I think it's a conversation that it's not an unfair question to ask. Ceasefire text line, the growth in Mississippi started with Phil Bryant as well.
Oh, yeah.
It's
been going back to Fordyce, actually. So.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably rewind farther than that and say Haley Barbour kind of got the ball rolling with some focus on economic development. But really, one of the things that Haley did that set the table was getting the state on better financial footing with the establishment of the Rainy Day Fund, saving some money, and getting you in a spot where you could do some things that you needed to do to start attracting businesses.
Yeah, I'll go back to Fordyce.
It's almost like a linear thing. It's not just one moment in time, this person was great.
Well, and I love Fordyce because he was one of the first that really got out of we went with somebody who was not a traditional politician, and that opened the door for people like Haley Barbour, who wasn't a traditional politician. And you had to run
you out behind that shed over there and whip. Sorry.
And I worked with Governor Fordyce's wife. She was amazing too. But I think we started something there that has been one of the reasons why we've seen the state of Mississippi continue on the path of Republican domination. With Governor, you had Musgrove in there, but he only made it one term, and that was that Musgrove-Parker election where you really didn't have a clear Republican in that election. So it was
an interesting time.
I worked in that election. But it was, you've just seen a lot happen.
And Ronnie Musgrove's not nearly as liberal as a lot of Democrats you think about today either.
Well, yeah,
so, I mean
Mike Parker, so that was the Republican candidate. So I think there was an identity crisis somewhere in there. And then that really got back to, what we're working with now. And I think there's a lot of successes that a lot of governors, several, in a row here, that have continued to put feathers in the cap of Mississippi. And you can't just point to economic development, but there's so many other, social issues and things of that nature that have been dealt with. And you got to commend, balancing budgets is very important, especially when you're dealing with scant resources at times. So that's what Mississippi's been able to do is remarkable. And we need to continue that, the education components. I know there's we always have the debate on the school choice and ballot initiative and all these things. Of course, there's a lot more that can be done, but we are headed in the right direction and we have good leadership.
Yeah.
Where it comes from.
Ed in the Delta says conservative policies work when allowed to.
I agree with that. Yes. It's better.
Says everything is in North Mississippi. Why? That's just not true.
No, it's not.
It's just not true.
The
economic development projects are scattered all
everywhere
over the state of Mississippi.
You got a lot in the Red Hills going on. You have several Central Mississippi, North Mississippi. It's everywhere.
He changed our flag without letting people vote. Don't forget that. I don't know if you mean that as a positive or a negative. I'm taking that as a positive that we didn't have a chance to mess up what absolutely had to happen for the state of Mississippi.
That's one of those.
I know a lot of you disagree with that, and that's okay. You're not gonna persuade me an iota with that argument. So maybe we should just let that sleeping dog lie.
Yeah, that one's one that's it's said and done. And
because my perspective, it's maybe the most significant thing that has happened in the state of Mississippi in my lifetime.
Well, and that was one of the issues in which I was referring to that I didn't want to really, it's not my show. I didn't want to go off into that. But, you know what I'm saying? But that's one of the things that leadership, you sometimes have to do things that are unpopular because you know it's the right thing to do. And that is one of the greatest things about being a leader is you have to determine that. And it's not easy, and but that's the mark of a great leader is convincing people that something needs to be done that they may not see, but you do, and you know it's the right thing.
Yeah,
and you got to give people credit that are willing to take a side, and make a stand. You may not agree with it, but there's something to be said about folks that have that and aren't scared.
Oh, here we go. This one.
You know it's coming.
Here. Oh, I thought this was a conservative show. Comrade Cross has proven otherwise.
Well,
Yeah. Is that what you think? Yeah. Sure.
Comrade Cross.
Do I take the bait
I love
or
it.
not?
Yeah.
I think I'll not. We're
That
running behind.
Sounds like bait to me, but
we have much to discuss and are behind. Southern Miss hosting Arkansas State in Hattiesburg this weekend. 3-game series begins Friday night. Super Bulldog weekend in Starkville, Mississippi State hosting Kentucky. An all of a sudden energized Mississippi State baseball fan base. Big numbers at the ball yard expected this weekend. Ole Miss on the road, headed to Oklahoma, playing the Sooners in Norman. Big series. Ole Miss currently number 16 in the RPI. Certainly an important number when looking at whether or not they will be playing baseball at home in the month of June. That along with, winning. Oklahoma coming in at 22, so this is a good series for the Rebels. Kentucky number 29 in the RPI. Mississippi State 43. Bulldogs need wins. Period. Southern Miss at 31 in the RPI. Also got to keep winning for a chance to host. We are back with you alongside Lance. This is Comrade Cross on Mornings with Richard Cross.
From the Venable Morning.
Good morning to you there.
Okay, up and at 'em.
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
I'm glad you loved it, man.
C-Spire text line. You are either the will of the people or you're not, Richard. You can't pick and choose. Actually, I can. You see, I can pick and choose. I can kind of do whatever I want, and that's the cool thing about living in a place like these United States of America. You see, I'm allowed to say and think what I want. Doesn't mean that that's free from consequence. For example, you can be mad at me, or you can turn the channel. But the Constitution of the United States of America quite clearly tells me that I can say what I want to say. But here's the cool thing. So can you. So when you come with me at the you are either for the people or against the people, you have to choose. You can't pick and choose. Which is it? I'll take none of the above, friend.
What do you think the electoral college is? I mean, that's the will of the people. If that's the way it always was in this country, then you would directly elect your president. Or you wouldn't have representatives up there that are acting in your stead. So
hold on now. We're deep off in government stuff.
I'm just saying. I mean,
I know. I'm giving you a hard time.
Yeah,
it's like foundational principles of the United States.
I mean, nothing is always black and white.
And here's the other thing. Because this message, as it was sent, pertains to the changing of the flag, right? That's what set this off. Right? And it says, no, Richard, it's bad that the governor just picked the flag, didn't go for a referendum, whatever. If you're not for the will of the people, you don't get to choose. That makes me think, based on the context of the content, that you are actually far to the right, which is fine. But your mindset as it pertains to this issue is far to the left. It's way to the left when you go, oh, no, Richard, you can't say that. And why do you say that, Richard, you can't pick and choose? You say that because you didn't like the outcome. And that's the most Democrat crybaby thing you could do. I didn't get my way. What are you going to do, go riot? No, you're not. You're going to get up and you're going to go to work this morning. You're going to continue to try to support your family. But think about it when you say it that way. Because you didn't like the outcome, you want to come with a high and mighty, you can't say that because there wasn't a process. Stop. Because that means you're thinking like a Democrat while trying to be this far-right Republican. Bet nobody's ever said it that way to you. And you look, I may be making you so mad that you want to punch the windshield in your truck. I feel free. I mean, don't, please don't. I mean, you have to get a new windshield, and you probably cut your hand, and it all would be because you just had a bad opinion. But you are free to have that opinion in the way that I am free to have my opinion.
And that's what makes America great, right?
Let's get back on track. It's like a free-flowing idea. Like, I'm organic. So far off from where I intended to be right now that we're going to talk just a little bit of sports in the 7 o'clock hour. But right now, we're going to give you a lottery update. Our lottery updates are brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery. Find them online at mslottery.com. That's mslottery.com. Today is the day the 6th drawing in the Pink Panther Diamond Tripler bonus promotion is happening. The Mississippi Lottery is awarding cash prizes, $15,000, $10,000, $5,000, plus a couple $100 gift cards. Winning cities will be announced exclusively to Mississippi Lottery insiders first, followed by a public release on social media. That's at mslottery.com. Lotto America, no jackpot winner last night, $32.1 million, the estimated jackpot for Saturday night's drawing. Estimated cash value closing in on $15 million. Last night's numbers, 5, 22, 23, 24, 36, star ball of 7, bonus, all-star bonus multiplier of 7. No jackpot winner on Powerball. Saturday, May 3rd is the next one. $44 million. Estimated cash value of $20.3 million. 1, 2, 3, 57, 59. Powerball of 9. Power play multiplier of 2. Those were the numbers for last night. You got anything?
Well, you want to do some winners here? Or? Canton woman, $1,000. Sure. Flowood, a man won $800. A couple $800s in there with a Goodman man, and also a Brandon woman, $1,000 on match 5, and two $1,250 winners from Columbia and Hattiesburg on the cash pop, and then a Saltillo, $2,500 richer on a ticket on the cash pop.
All right. Throw me a couple more. Sorry.
No. $4,000 winner Gulfport woman with the $20 200-time cash blitz winnings, and a $2,000 winner on the $20 $100 million extravaganza right there. That ought to clear us up there.
You good and awake now?
Yeah.
6 o'clock hour in the books, 7 o'clock hour coming up. Alongside Lance, I'm Richard. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Wake up! Wake up! Rise and shine!
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross.
Nice early morning surprise.
On Super Talk, Mississippi.
I was a dam builder across a river deep and wide, where steel and water did collide. A place called Boulder on the wild Colorado.
A pleasant, happy, and wonderful good morning to you. This is Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi, streaming online, supertalk.fm, Supertalk TV if you're watching, and then there's the good old-fashioned, tried-and-true way.
Right, Supertalk Sputnik, yeah.
The radio in your car, wherever you're listening, however you're listening. Thanks for joining us this morning. Thanks for starting your day off. Weekend just around the corner as we all gather together on this Thursday morning. First day of the month of May. Do you note that on the calendar this morning? May 1st?
They just kind of keep rolling away, don't
Flip
they?
the calendar. Fun month if you're a baseball fan, especially a college baseball fan. We will be into the postseason of baseball. Conference tournaments will be done. The NCAA regionals will have begun before we flip the calendar to June. And then it's vacation time. Trying to help Lance figure out where he's going. He says he's got to get to the beach this summer, and he's got a place. Now he's just got to find a time.
Yeah, that's the key there. You know, when you have a fear of missing out, like I do from work and such, it's hard to carve away some days. But
Borky had that problem too. I feel like I need to rub off on you a little bit, Lance.
Yeah, I don't want anybody to come take my seat, though. I like doing this.
Yeah, I hear you. Nobody's taking your seat.
I'm competitive,
That is your seat.
I'm competitive.
Yeah, but you know what? Your competitive juices get reinvigorated when you take a little time off sometimes.
You got that right, man. I agree with you.
Get your hiney to the beach before it's all said and done.
Yeah, my only vacation recently really has been hunting in the woods over the last few years. But yeah, the beach is a calling. I know I need to get down to the beach. Too much fun, too much sun, and let these guns out. I don't want to scare off anybody, but they're looking good. So
this hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you are not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services, plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today, 601-206-7966. Go to MWGEmployerServices.com. We are glad to be with you this morning. I got a little sidetracked, and I needed to tell you about this. This is golf news, all right? But it's golf news times 4 for the 8th consecutive season, and the 17th time in program history, the Ole Miss men's golf team found its way into the field of 81 teams announced for the 2025 NCAA Men's Golf Championship. They are the number 1 seed in the Tallahassee Regional. First time that Ole Miss has ever been the number 1 seed. Previous record was a year ago when they were the number 2 seed in the Stanford Regional, trying to advance to the NCAA championship. What's going to happen out in Carlsbad, California. 9th time in 11 years under Chris Malloy that Ole Miss has gotten to the postseason. Coaching at his alma mater, he's led the Ole Miss men's golf team to 8 straight NCAA regionals, longest streak in program history. That tournament in Tallahassee is May 12th through the 14th. Ole Miss won 3 times this year. Mississippi State has punched its ticket to the NCAA tournament as the number 5 seed in the Reno Regional, hosted by the University of Nevada, State's 7th consecutive NCAA regional berth. That extends a program record. Bulldogs headed to Montreux Golf and Country Club in Reno, Nevada. 14 of the 16 schools that play men's SEC golf advanced to postseason play. The Mississippi State women's golf team will be returning to the NCAA tournament for the 13th time, as they will be the 4 seed in the Gold Canyon Regional, which begins on May 6th. Bulldogs will be making their 5th straight championship appearance, which extends the longest streak in program history. Charlie Ewing's done a great job with the women's program there for the Bulldogs. They've made the tournament every season that he has been their head coach. They advanced out of the regional round 4 of those 5 years. The only time that they did not advance was in 2021, where they didn't actually have a regional. They canceled it because of rain in Baton Rouge, and the top 6 seeds advanced. That was a year that Ole Miss went on to win the national championship. And finally, for the 16th time in program history, the Ole Miss women's golf team is regional bound. Number 16, Ole Miss, earned the 3 seed in the Charlottesville Regional. They will be playing in Virginia at the Birdwood Golf Course. 7th straight NCAA tournament appearance for the Rebels. 5th straight regional in which Ole Miss has been a number 4 seed or better. Competition going to be stiff in Charlottesville. The SEC champion South Carolina's there. Virginia's the number 2 seed. Ole Miss the number 3, and Florida, also in the SEC, is the number 4 seed. NCAA championships are at the Omni La Costa Resort and Spa in Carlsbad, California. 30 teams that will advance to the finals. 12 of the 16 women's teams advance to postseason play as well. That's some good golf news right there.
Man, I mean, that's a lot of great golf news.
How about that? Did you see last night that an unidentified male fell 21 feet from the Clemente wall in right field at PNC Park during the Pirates-Cubs baseball game last night? Pittsburgh issued a statement shortly after the game ended saying the man was transported to the Allegheny General Hospital. That was a scary deal.
Yeah.
You can see the video. The play is developing, and this guy loses his balance and falls over the rail. It was crumpled onto the warning track.
Goodness gracious. I'm surprised that doesn't happen more often. I've been in a few stadiums. It's pretty steep.
Yeah.
Just kind of going, wow, man, these stairs.
Beautiful ballpark, PNC Park in Pittsburgh. Jeff Spurbeck, the longtime friend and business partner and former agent of John Elway, died Wednesday from injuries suffered when he fell off a golf cart that reportedly was being driven by John Elway. The Riverside County coroner in California confirmed Spurbeck's death in a news release. John Elway said, "I'm absolutely devastated and heartbroken by the passing of my close friend, business partner, and agent Jeff Spurbeck. There are no words to truly express the profound sadness I feel with the sudden loss of someone who has meant so much to me." According to TMZ, Elway was driving the golf cart when Spurbeck fell off and hit his head on the asphalt. He'd been sitting in the passenger seat, a source told ESPN. TMZ also reported that he has been on life support following the fall and ultimately passed away. The Riverside County Sheriff's Office is investigating the incident, though there is no expected foul play, and it is thought that Elway was not driving negligently. That's awful.
That's terrible.
Just awful.
You wonder if maybe he had some.
Years old.
You wonder if he may have had some kind of condition that may have caused him to faint or get lightheaded or something, and just kind of crumple out.
Good to be with you this morning. Really is. I got a message from someone close to me a little while ago that said, "Calm down, Richard, slow down." No, I know what I'm doing, I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe I have no idea what I'm doing and makes it even more fun.
Well, it is the roller coaster of every day. We get to enjoy that.
That's right. And it's free-flowing. The United States and Ukraine yesterday signed an agreement granting American access to Ukraine's vast mineral resources, finalizing a deal months now in the making that could enable continued military aid to Kiev amid concerns that President Donald Trump might scale back support in the ongoing peace negotiations with Russia. The two sides didn't give much detail, just kind of bare-bone details about the structure of the deal. Called the United States-Ukraine Reinvestment Fund, but it's expected to give the United States access to Ukraine's valuable rare earth minerals while providing Kiev a measure of assurance about continued American support in its grinding war with Russia. Man, there is... So that's the headline of the story, right? That's the surface level. There are far-reaching effects. Yeah. This has tentacles that extend a long, long way.
I hope it's not something where you're looking at, and again, not trying to compare two different eras, two different wars, but we eased into this Vietnam thing, and it took 15, 20 years of life and energy out of this country, and you hope that it's not a situation where, with all these mineral deals, we'll send American companies in there, and all of a sudden American troops have got to go protect the American companies, and then all of a sudden you're enmeshed in a war that you don't need to be in. Let's hope that's not the way it's going.
That is a possibility. We hope it's not the outcome. Certainly hope that's not the outcome. Trump administration admitted that there is a U.S. presence there and will be. But just scratching the surface of those tentacles, there are a couple of things that really stand out. Number one, while negotiating this deal, Russia has continued to fire missiles at Ukraine, and I think that really, really made Donald Trump mad. Also, as it pertains to trade relationship with China, one of the things that we've heard is, China's kind of got the market cornered on the whole rare earth minerals deal, and that could affect, technology development and the building of chips and other things. This is a scenario where the United States says, yeah, we might have access to rare earth minerals that you think only you've got, China. And by the way, that's probably the biggest interest in Greenland as well, in addition to the security concerns. There's a lot here. We're back.
From reaching across the state and across the aisle. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Rolling along with you, it's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Thanks for spending part of your morning with us. The C Spire text line is open, and it's popping this morning. 601-879-4395. That is the number if you would like to join in the conversation. Whether it is good, bad, you agree, you disagree, we'd love for you to jump in with your opinion. Certainly would. Doesn't mean I'm going to agree with your opinion. Doesn't mean I'm not going to push back a little bit on your opinion. But I want to hear it. Love to. The C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. We are glad to have you along for the ride. Every sports fan can tell you fast speeds win games. That's why C Spire brings you fiber home internet, nationwide 5G wireless, and IT solutions that move as fast as your business. Learn more at cspire.com. C Spire, inspired by you. Let me give you a little no-context comedic relief. Kamala Harris emerged from her wherever she's been lately.
The Betty Ford Clinic.
Oh, come on. That's not very nice.
I know. I'm sorry.
But the good news is Here's the good news. Nothing has changed. She sounds exactly like she sounded when she was on the campaign trail. I will grant you that this is just a snippet of a speech that she gave, but she sounds exactly like she sounded. Former Vice President, former presidential candidate, Kamala Harris.
In fact, please allow me, friends, to digress for a moment. Okay. It's kind of dark in here, but I'm asking for a show of hands. Who saw that video from a couple of weeks ago, the one of the elephants at the San Diego Zoo during the earthquake? Google it if you've not seen it. So that scene has been on my mind. Everybody's asking me, what you've been thinking about these days? Well...
You left off professional comedian.
Is she ever not awkward? Ever?
Goodness.
Whew.
Again, thank you for showing back up, though. I needed that.
Yeah.
Do they make that in like an aspirin form? You ever just start feeling down in the day, you just pick up a Kamala pill and you just start laughing uncontrollably?
It's like when you need to laugh. Yeah, like, I'm down in the dumps. What can I do to laugh? Oh, let's listen to this clip from the former vice president.
Or just watch, Tim Waltz try to load a shotgun or any of that. That should be on fast play on your phone, if you're ever just having a bad day.
Oh, hold on a second. I think I've got it right here. Oh, yeah, I do. You want Tim Walz?
Oh, yes, I was hoping.
Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, the former vice presidential candidate on the Democrat ticket alongside the aforelistened to Kamala Harris, he explained yesterday why it was that he was added to the ticket, why he was the choice for vice president. This is Tim Walz in his own words on why Kamala chose him.
To improve people's lives. But I also was on the ticket, quite honestly, because I could code talk to white guys watching football, fixing their truck, doing that I could put them at ease. I was the permission structure to say, look, you can do this and vote for this. And you look across those swing states, with the exception of Minnesota, we didn't get enough of those votes.
But you could be giving them...
No, you didn't.
Permission structure. I love that.
He was the permission structure for white guys to vote for this, he said.
You really think he could fix anything? I mean, does he even know what a quarterback is?
He's right when he says he was talking in code.
Yeah.
The problem is nobody understood the code that he was talking in.
Yeah, and I think voters showed you that.
He was talking in code, speaking to guys that like football and are fixing their trucks, saying, you know what? You can be a man just like me. It's okay for you to vote for Kamala. The problem is he thought people were stupid. He thought if you were a red-blooded American that liked football and liked tinkering under the hood, you were dumb enough to believe that defined who you were and what you believed, and because a white guy with spirit fingers from Minnesota was on the ticket with Kamala Harris, you were going to vote too.
I would put money on it that his wife could throw a football further than he could.
He said he was code talk for white guys to be able to vote for Kamala Harris. He was the permission structure. Okay.
Yeah, I want a definition on that new term.
Don't you think that if he's still saying that 6 months after the election, he genuinely believed that was a real thing?
Oh yeah, no, he was the man's man of America. The guy that thank you for reminding me, the guy that put tampons in elementary school boys' bathrooms, that's going to resound with guys fixing their trucks and watching football. Let me tell you. Not in a little girl's bathroom that's in elementary school, which they would have no need for, obviously, but a boy's bathroom.
Let's be careful on this. And not because I am saying for you to say something or not saying, but Got a lot of folks on the way to school this morning.
I know. I'm just saying that's who you're talking about.
That's the guy. That's the guy we're talking about. I read 2 stories last night on the Wall Street Journal's website. It's kind of disappointing to see what the Wall Street Journal has become. Because for a long time, the Wall Street Journal was the closest thing I think that we had to pretty down-the-middle news coverage. Like, maybe you didn't want to get your news from Fox. Maybe you didn't want to get your news from CNN or MSNBC. There was once upon a time where you could get your news from the Associated Press and feel like it was down the middle. I feel like the Wall Street Journal was kind of the last bastion of, like, this is the news. And the first story that I read on the Wall Street Journal was a long piece about Elon Musk. And it was a piece that went into great detail about the board of directors at Tesla, their frustration with Elon Musk being away from the company and in Washington, seeing shares when Elon Musk was at the height of his popularity in December, seeing shares equate to a $1.5 trillion market cap for the electric vehicle company, only to see those shares come down to about the market cap for Tesla coming down to about $900 billion. And the story reported that the board of directors at Tesla, it's an 8-member board. Elon used to be chairman of the board. He stepped down from that role because he's spread pretty thin, right? He's got 5 major companies, all with multi-$100 billion valuations, and he's also running the Department of Government Efficiency, although he's about to step away from that. But the crux of the story was that the board at Tesla had engaged executive search firms, plural, initially, to get an idea for who might be best to run the company going forward. And then they zeroed in on one particular search firm and had engaged with them about trying to find the next leader for Tesla. Now, mind you, Elon Musk owns 13% of the company, which is significant when you're talking about a $900 billion, $1 trillion, $1.5 trillion valuation for the company overall. That is a big, big monetary piece of that company. Here's the problem. Not Elon Musk himself, but the board of directors at Tesla issued a statement either late last night or early this morning that said the story from the Wall Street Journal was completely false, that the board at Tesla had not engaged the services of an executive search firm. Publicly said that they believe in the leadership of Elon Musk, and the company is moving forward as is. Now, is that like, to use a sports example, a coaching search where they say, we never offered the job to anybody until they actually offer the job to somebody, knowing full well that they talked in a way where they were offering the job to somebody, but that person decided not to, and so they're trying to cover their heinies? I don't know. The bottom line is the board of Tesla, and remember the market reacts to every single rumor that's out there, came out and said, we're not looking for Elon Musk's replacement. Directly contradicting the story from the Wall Street Journal. We're back with you right after this. Christopher Green joins us from. This segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
And now, Mornings with Richard Cross.
What's up?
Let's get the show going.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
But that don't mean any of this. Still knocking.
7:37 on this Monday morning, the first day of the month of May. We are glad to be with you. Welcome your comments, your thoughts, your questions on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. C Spire, inspired by you. Pleased to welcome my first guest this morning, Professor Christopher Green. He teaches in the Ole Miss Law School and regular guest here on Super Talk. Christopher, good morning. Thanks so much for jumping in.
Good morning. This is an interesting spring with the Supreme Court.
It really is, and they have a docket that is full, and I'm assuming that they are not going to get to much that is on that docket. Yesterday, though, the Supreme Court began hearing arguments in this charter school case. If you don't mind, why don't you start out with a quick summary of exactly what it is that they are looking at right now?
Sure. So there's been several cases in the last few years where they have the Supreme Court has really taken a look at. So there's a long history of having state constitutional limits on funding to religious entities of any kind. And there's always been a complaint that this is discrimination against religious citizens. If you're a citizen of a different creed, you ought to have the same civil rights. That's the idea. And because of that, there's just been this long-standing tension. So basically, Oklahoma has a charter school system. So they have a system where you can set up private folks can come together and say, hey, we want to have a special kind of school with a different sort of curriculum. And this will be in the system of the public schools. There's basically one of the big questions in the case is this literally a public school, or is this a private school getting participation in a public system? But basically, this is not a private school as such. They just kind of teach whatever, subject to a voucher program. This has a bunch of curricular requirements. And basically what the argument against including religious schools is, if we were looking really carefully at your curricular requirements, whether you're teaching math, whether you're teaching certain kinds of literature, whether you're teaching certain kinds of history and all that, and at the same time, we had to worry about doing that in a religious way, there would be too much entanglement. We just want, as a state, the state of Oklahoma, just to get out of this business. Would that count as neutrality? Getting out of the business of having any involvement with religiously focused charter schools for the sake of getting rid of this entanglement. And it looks like the Supreme Court is pretty likely to say, no, that's not a sufficient reason. Justice Barrett is out, so the conservatives would have to roll all five of theirs, including Justice Kavanaugh and Chief Justice Roberts. But it certainly looks like they will. Justice Kavanaugh went on at length about the problems with this kind of approach, and Chief Justice Roberts certainly seemed sympathetic to this claim as well.
So there are multiple legal questions, as you describe it, as I see it, before the Supreme Court. One of them is about religious freedom. One of them is about the separation of church and state. One of them is about the definition of public versus private. There's a question about public funds going to fund religious private schools. But we do have to remember, and I think you pointed this out, well, two things that you pointed out, I don't want those to get glossed over. Number one, Amy Coney Barrett is sitting this out. So there are 8 justices on this panel, not 9. She is close friends with one of the parties that is involved in this charter school conversation. And then the other thing that I think you pointed out that we need to remember is that these charter schools in Oklahoma are held to the same testing standards or educational standards that the rest of the public school system is. It is not a separate private entity that doesn't have to do state testing and meet certain standards.
That's right. So, all 3 of the more liberal justices seem pretty skeptical. They have been pretty skeptical in the earlier cases. Justice Jackson, some people thought, well, maybe she'll be, disagree on some issues, not on this one. So they have had cases. So the earlier cases have said very specifically, states are not required to set up a voucher system, not required to set up a system other than the public schools.
Right.
But once they do, they have to be neutral in the ways in which people are participating. So a lot of the discussion was exactly what did we mean in these earlier cases where we said the state is not required to set up any kind of voucher system or system of parental choice or anything like that. Does that apply to this?
So the big question the big question that's being asked here, and you correct me if I'm wrong on this, is it okay for this Oklahoma charter school that has religious curriculum to go along with the rest of its educational curriculum? Is it okay for this school to receive public money? Is that the ultimate question?
That's the basic question. Is so if it were just a straight up, we're subsidizing X and we don't want to subsidize Y because it's religious. So the first case was about chopped up tires for a playground. It's like if you're giving chopped up tires to the secular private schools, you got to give chopped up tires to the religious schools too. And then there were questions about whether if you had a state constitutional requirement, whether that was an excuse, whether if you had a voucher program that applied to some, whether that's going to apply. So the basic question is a state compelled sometimes to give money to a religious entity for religious stuff, so paying for a religious curriculum, if you're paying for a secular curriculum, that's already been established. The only question is the apparatus of the charter school system with all these curricular requirements, is the existence of that apparatus and the entanglement of theology in how you teach different things, is that enough of a reason to discriminate against religious entities? So, for instance, you've got this history requirement that you teach certain aspects of the founding. Well, I mean, somebody could sit down and say, let's really dig into the theology of the Declaration of Independence and look at Romans 13 or something and say, let's have a theological debate about whether the Declaration of Independence was a violation of Romans 13. And you might have a theology class where you present, the ideas of the church that runs the school on that issue. Well, that's not something you would never do in the public schools. Evaluating that whether you're teaching about the Declaration of Independence properly, there would be issues about whether that job would be too complicated if you got to disentangle the theology. But it does seem like the Supreme Court is going to say, you can't discriminate on that basis. That justification is not enough of a justification. This is essentially one way to think of it. Is this a civil right about how the government treats citizens? Or is this a kind of political question about how the government organizes itself? Is this an internal question about who's staffing different things? Because the government doesn't have to, accept all comers with respect to letting people act on behalf of the state, but they do have to treat all citizens equally to the extent that it's a question of the government treating citizens a certain way. This charter school system really does seem to the court like it's a system that's set up in order to treat all citizens of all creeds equally. And once you see it that way, you're gonna require the state to play ball with religious groups as well.
So to me, that opens the door. This is, I think, a Christian charter school or a charter school with Christian teachings in Oklahoma. If the Supreme Court says, yes, it's okay for there to be Bible curriculum that goes along with history, math, reading, writing, arithmetic, to boil it down, what is to stop there from being a charter school that is teaching Islam or is teaching, I'll use an extreme example and say Satanism or whatever else?
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like that would be really, really concerning for a lot of people. But if the Supreme Court says it's okay for Christian teaching, doesn't that open the door for it to be okay for, Presbyterian or Methodist or Islam or whatever else?
Yeah. So some of the opposition to this idea was, oh my goodness, we're going to have madrasas and we're going to have people. I mean, some of the fears are, oh my goodness, we're going to have people training up suicide bombers here in Oklahoma. And I mean, Oklahoma has dealt with terrorism
no doubt.
In the past. Certainly you can, questions about like encouragement of crime or something like that, you can restrict that in any event. So to the extent that the school is like literally complicit in crime or encouraging violence, you can deal with that on that level. But it would have to be some sort of generally applicable criterion about public safety, about certain kinds of views. There has always been room to restrict that. Satanism, if it literally is encouraging violence, would be a different question.
Hold that thought if you don't mind. I'm going to keep you through the break. Couple more questions for you, visiting with law professor Christopher Green. Teaches at the University of Mississippi Law School. We're back. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi.
From the Venom.
Grab another cup of coffee and start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Professor Christopher Green is my guest. Teaches in the law school at Ole Miss. Regular contributor here on SuperTalk Mississippi. I want to try to get to two questions with you here. I don't know if we'll have time for two. Bringing this topic of the Supreme Court and religious charter schools or charter schools receiving public funding if they are teaching religious curriculum in part, trying to bring that back to the state of Mississippi. It is my prediction, and I'm not going out on a limb, it's a lot of people's prediction, that the biggest issue that the legislature in Mississippi is going to face next year and try to tackle next year is the school choice conversation here in the state of Mississippi.
Again.
What might this mean if Mississippi were to ultimately go with universal school choice, in which public funding would then follow students if it was universal choice and perhaps go to private schools as well? What would this mean for private Christian or Catholic or Scientology, whatever schools? Would that mean that they are open to funding from the state as part of a universal school choice conversation?
They certainly could be. And our state is a little different from every other.
It is.
We have a lot of people in our state, a lot of people in the kind of homeschooling, private education world that really want to have as little as possible to do with any governmental funding. And a lot of those folks, there's probably more in Mississippi than any other state, which is, I think, the reason why, even though every state around us has a universal school choice program, we don't have one. It's folks, and I'm close friends with a lot of these folks, people who just don't want to have any kind of contact with the state because they're worried that will come with strings. But it's up to the state what kind of strings to put on it. Scientology, for instance, they have a long running set of questions really with the IRS, because they have just kind of some really idiosyncratic views about what counts as a donation and things like that. So certainly places that have, really unusual views about, saying they're not subject to certain kinds of laws, those could be regulated even if they don't get any public money. So they could just say, look, you're not allowed to encourage people to commit crimes. You can't have a school of the mafia or something. So I am inclined to think that some of those fears are overblown. But,
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. I was thinking, okay, who's going to be the first to roll out the Gotti school?
So
sorry, carry on.
Yeah. So when the Supreme Court writes this opinion, so everybody's kind of thinking they'll probably say Oklahoma is required to do to allow religious folks in the building. There's likely to be, and it really depends on what Kavanaugh and Roberts think they need, or just what kind of pressure they're under from arguments from the dissents. There's probably going to be a paragraph saying, of course, states are allowed to have requirements about X, Y, and Z. A lot of the conversation in the oral argument yesterday was, are the states allowed to have requirements on X, Y, and Z? And then if the Mississippi legislature decided to have a requirement like that, and if they decided to fund a universal voucher program, well, then a lot of private schools, or a lot of people who are homeschooling now think, hey, maybe we should get 5-10 families together and start us one of these schools. We would have to be subject to these curricular requirements. So, there's folks that kind of the much more kind of radical libertarian sorts say they don't want Mississippi parents to be placed under that kind of pressure. The pressure they're under now is just the raw financial pressure of having to pay property taxes for the school system, but not getting any benefit. The worry is, even if you do get the benefit, it may come with these strings. And it totally depends on what the legislature wants and what the U.S. Supreme Court is willing to kind of give their blessing to. But even if they give their blessing to it, the legislature, you can still argue with the legislature, like you could put in structural things to try to guarantee that there's going to be genuine freedom for religious citizens in these things. But it's it's a delicate political dance, and you sometimes, especially at the end of the session, coming up this time of the year when you're like, who's going to get what kinds of money? We find it out like all within like 20 minutes. You're like, what did the governor sign? What did the governor not sign?
And it's funny you say that because, district project funding seems to be the biggest thing that is still hanging in there in terms of the budget debate in the legislature with the special session upcoming. Christopher, unfortunately, we are out of time. I wish we had more because there are a couple of other directions I would like to go. Always appreciate your time, appreciate your insight. This Supreme Court decision is going to be interesting to watch. Thanks so much.
Great talking to you. Take care.
You as well. Professor Christopher Green teaches in the Ole Miss Law School and a Supreme Court scholar. We're going to start the 8 o'clock hour with a conversation with Tiwana O'Rear. She's Chief of Operations at Sanctuary Hospice. They have a radiothon going today. We'll talk a little bit more about the mission that is happening there. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. The news is next, then we're back for the 8 o'clock hour.
Take a deep dive into the news and debates driving the day, all on your ride to work. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi.
Eight o'clock hour, good morning to you. Thanks for being with us. Lance Tolbert, me, Richard Cross. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Going to try and squeeze in a lot in this last hour of the show on this Thursday morning. And we're going to start with a conversation with Tiwana O'Rear. She is Chief of Operations at Sanctuary Hospice. They are located in Tupelo. Today is the 8th annual radiothon for Sanctuary Hospice. On Mix 95.9. That's our local Tupelo music station. And happy to join in the conversation. Tiwana, good morning. Thanks so much for joining me.
Good morning, Richard. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So a big day at Sanctuary. Talk to us a little bit about what's going on locally there in Tupelo.
We're really excited that this is our 20th anniversary of Sanctuary Hospice House, and we're having this radiothon to kind of celebrate that. And we've served almost 10,000 patients in those 20 years between our inpatient facility here in Tupelo and our home hospice. We rely heavily on fundraising, and that's part of what our radiothon is for today. We have almost $2 million deficit every year to provide the care that we provide around the clock at our inpatient facilities. So our reimbursement does not include room and board expenses. And so we do a lot of fundraising and donations that support our mission here. We're a faith-based ministry and celebrating 20 years.
I think most people have a general idea of hospice. You know, if you rewind a decade or two, I'm not sure that it was nearly as common or as there was as much understanding about hospice care. Tell me a little bit specifically about the mission of Sanctuary Hospice House.
There has been a significant growth in hospice care, over the last 10, 15 years for sure. Our mission here started with a group of people, local people that went to Mexico on a mission trip. And as they ended their mission trip there, they stopped to leave their extra supplies at a facility that ended up being a place called Arbor de la Vida. And it was basically a hospice house in Mexico, but it was just a house that people went to when they had nowhere to go and no one to take care of them at the end of life. And the people from Tupelo saw that mission and said, this is really something that we should have at home and we could have. And it was a long road to get from that idea to funding what sits here today as our hospice house and our mission that goes out to homes and taking care of people there in 18 counties throughout North Mississippi. It was a long road, but we've always done it debt-free. Our community's been so good to us. We're unbelievably blessed with support. And it's been great. I've been here 15 of those 20 years, and it's such a blessing. We see God's hand at work here every day. It's just amazing that this is what I get to come and do for work every day, and love talking about it, telling people about it. And I definitely love days like today where we have something big to celebrate. 20 years is amazing.
I don't know if there's symbolism in yellow paint, but every time I drive into Tupelo, if I'm coming from Oxford and I turn off of Highway 6 and to what turns into Main Street as it goes into Tupelo, on my right, I pass Sanctuary Hospice, the old Hancock farm, and then Sanctuary Hospice there with the white fence around it and that yellow paint that to me makes it look so welcoming. And this is a place where, I mean, if we're just being real, people's lives are ending, but it's about their lives ending with dignity and with comfort and with specialized care so that they can be as comfortable as possible at the end of life. Is there anything to that yellow paint? Am I crazy? Am I the first person that's ever said that? Because to me, it makes it feel warm and comforting as you drive by.
Yeah, it's definitely a color of welcoming and love and hope. And it's very serene out here. We do sit on the old Hancock farm, with this big yellow house with the white picket fence. It's very welcoming when you pull up to it. And the story goes, during the founding of the house, there was some debate over that color, and there was some advocates to have a dark, warm, army green kind of color. There was a few people that were adamant that no, this place had to look like sunshine when you pull into the driveway. Wow. And so the yellow color it was. There's also a story about the name, like they had to go to Washington to lobby for legislation to even get the hospice house to be here. Medicare didn't allow inpatient facilities as a standalone. You had to have a home hospice as well, and they didn't want that. They just wanted the inpatient facility at that time. And they went to Washington, and before they went, they got there on Sunday, and they woke up in a snowstorm and weren't able to go to the church they intended to go to. And they walked across the road to the church. And one particular man had advocated that the name had to be the Sanctuary Hospice House. But again, there's a lot of people involved, so there were different names suggested. But when they walked into the church service that day, the minister stood up and said, "Welcome to the sanctuary." And they said they knew from that moment on that had to be the name. And the yellow had to be the color. There was some debate, but it ended up being the right choice.
Visiting with Tiwana O'Rear. She's Chief of Operations at Sanctuary Hospice in Tupelo. So the mission has evolved to include home hospice care as well. How does that decision come about, whether the hospice house is used or someone, a patient, a person chooses to be in their home but receive hospice care?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of that depends on how much care they need. If they need more nursing care around the clock and patients are not able to have that at home, then they choose the hospice house. Sometimes it's a caregiver issue if they don't have anybody at home to stay with them as they're declining. But often we have patients that do both. We have patients that want to be at home as long as they can be at home, and we take care of them there. And then we kind of set benchmarks with them, and everybody has their own milestones. Some people say, when I need a hospital bed, it's time for me to go somewhere else. When I can't walk anymore, it's time for me to go. So we work with them to set what their goals are and determine when they want to make that transition. But we very often have people that do both, because home's really where you want to be. It's where you're most comfortable. And a lot of people we do have on service that never transition from their home. They stay there. But for some people, that's a little much on the caregiver, or they don't have the perfect situation at home, and they choose to come here, and we facilitate that, very easy process.
One of the things that's interesting to me about hospice care, I mean, the focus is on the patient, right? It's about giving them that dignity that we talked about, making them as comfortable as they can. But there is a collateral effect in my mind for the caregiver or the family, that like almost a peace that comes over them, knowing that their loved one is going to get that care and is going to be as comfortable as they can. And it lifts some of the burden that a daughter or son or a mother or father or whatever the family member may be has and is carrying, kind of lightens the load for them.
Yeah, it does. It really does lighten the load. And when our patients come to the hospice house, we like to say, like, you're here now to be their family, because a lot of them have spent a lot of time caregiving before they come here. Yeah. And caregiving is really hard, and people don't understand that until they've been in that situation, just how hard that is. But when people come to the hospice house, we say, you're done with that. Now you can just be the family member. You can just love on them and spend time with them and focus on them, and let us do the caregiving and the tasks that go along with that. And it's really a relief to them. You can see it come over them. And a lot of people say, when I walk in the door, I just felt, like that this was home, that we were going to be taken care of. And it's a relief. Like, they leave those burdens outside the door when they come in.
You mentioned it a second ago. Insurance covers part, but usually doesn't cover all, and so there is a need for funds to continue to come in. Let people know, if you don't mind, how they can help if they're moved to do this. Whether it's, and I'm not trying to take away from what's going on today, whether it's Sanctuary Hospice in Tupelo and the beautiful mission that's happening there, or another organization that's closer to your town. How do people get involved to help?
So each state has a state hospice organization. You can get involved there. Every hospice is required to have volunteer hours. It's a Medicare requirement. So that's a great way to get involved, is find your local hospice and ask about volunteer needs that they have. You can do office work, direct patient care if you would like. You can do grief support by mailing out letters and cards and things like that. And then once you connect with those hospices, there's always opportunities to donate, support, and help them in their fundraising efforts as well, because we all kind of have the same challenges. Ours is a little more significant because we have the inpatient facility, and other hospices don't have that. So we do have to support that. And it is a pretty high need, just because we don't get room and board reimbursement. So we get paid the same as if we were taking care of these patients out in their home and making a visit a few times a week. But here we're providing care around the clock and staffing and food and facilities. So it is a bigger need, and we rely heavily on that. But other people do as well. Website for Sanctuary in Tupelo? SanctuaryHospice.org. Our radiothon today is 662-844-2111. We have a McCarty raffle and online donations as well. You can find on our Facebook or our website. Great opportunity for you to get involved and support an incredible organization. Tiwana, thanks so much for your time this morning. Great catching up with you, and keep up the incredible work. Such amazing work happening there at Sanctuary Hospice. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. All right, we'll see you soon. More with Mornings with Richard Cross after this time out. You can consider sanctuaryhospice.org if you would like to support the cause and their 8th annual radiothon for Sanctuary Hospice.
From the Venable Glass.
From Duck Hill to Alligator, Mississippians start their day the right way. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Later this afternoon on In a Mississippi Minute with Steve Azar, you'll hear an interview with Mark King of the Wildlife Heritage Festival. That's happening this weekend in Leland. In a Mississippi Minute with Steve Azar is presented by Superior Catfish. Remember, there's catfish, then there is Superior Catfish. U.S. farm-raised catfish with homegrown flavor. Ask for it by name at your favorite store or restaurant. and go to superiorcatfish.com for more information. Tomorrow afternoon, Rebecca Turner will be on the road. The Friday edition of Good Things with Rebecca Turner will be at Quarry Park for the City of Brandon's Jubilee Days. Jubilee Days is a celebration for the entire family. It's May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. That means it starts today. Enjoy carnival rides, games, and classic treats. Visit brandonms.org for more information. What is the best classic treat in a carnival-like setting?
Doesn't every kid love the candy apple, huh? I'm kidding. No.
Candy apples is one of them. Caramel apple is one of them. Funnel cake?
That's a good one, yeah.
Funnel cake's got to be cooked. If a funnel cake
it's right, it's
is undercooked, it's not worth it. And if it's overcooked, it's like, Like there should be a little doughy taste in the middle. But a funnel cake that is cooked just right, still hot, just came out of the grease, it's got that dusting or heavy dusting of powdered sugar on top. Oh, brother.
They've gotten fancy at the fair, too. They've got like 10 or 12 different types funnel cake with all the different toppings and such. I'm a traditionalist, though, with the funnel cake.
Too. I think I like simplicity more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I'll eat a hamburger with just meat and bread, you know. I mean, or a hot dog same way. I don't have to have all the goodies. They're nice, but it's not a demand
I would say
I'm making.
9 times out of 10 when I eat a hot dog, it is hot dog and bun.
Yeah, I love it that way. Especially
if I add
a
anything,
good
it's
bun.
mustard. But I mean, like, I bet it's 1 out of 100 that I do, like, the chili and the cheese and the mustard and all that good stuff. No, I'm good. I don't need all that.
I'm a 3 hot dog minimum at any type of sporting event, and I'll go 2 of them are going to be plain, 1 with mustard, or if the mustard and stuff's been sitting out in the sun, I'll go straight to the relish, just to get the warm relish, the good stuff. Test your constitution a little bit. That's my favorite thing. Like, all right, I'm gonna see if I can handle this.
So what? So they'll do like a chocolate drizzle or a caramel drizzle.
They got all kind of stuff. Like they have Oreo cookies crumbled and all kind of things now. That
I'm not saying that that's bad. I just don't need it.
Yeah. I'm with you.
My wife would argue that I don't need funnel cake at all, period.
Well, you got the cotton candy.
Right.
Cotton candy is another one, as one of our listeners mentioned. That's always a winner.
The footlong corn dog, Jeff in Grenada says, there are lots of different varieties of corn dog. The Pronto Pup, though, that they serve in, that was at the Mid-South Fair, and that has carried on to the FedEx golf tournament. They got the Pronto Pup stands.
I just like the color scheme. It's like a throwback to the 60s or 70s. It's like yellow and brownish black. And no frills. If you want an amazing hot dog on a stick fried, come over here. And they're great. The Pronto Pup. I always get one of those at the fair.
Have you seen that you can buy cotton candy like in a box or like a little tub, like mass produced? That feels wrong to me.
You need to see them swirl it.
There is only, again, traditionalist here, in my view, there's only one way to do cotton candy, and it's that big sticky machine where they take the little thin cardboard stick and they go in there and, counterclockwise to the way the machine's turning while it's spinning, and then you get that big warm deal, and you take that, if you don't pull it off of your finger, you take that first bite with your mouth, and you look and you see like that saliva ring that's got the sugar residue where it's crystallizing.
Crust. Yeah, that's like
Mike in Boonville says a turkey leg.
Turkey legs are great. But, I mean, the cotton candy to me is a lot like a gyro. If you see them slicing it off that big loaf thing, then you know it's legit. It's right. Kind of the way the cotton candy is. You kind of need to see the little cardboard, weak little handheld thing.
I have never heard of this before. Probably a Jackson-only thing, but as a kid and probably still as an adult, I was obsessed with biscuits and syrup at the fair.
Oh, yeah, that's a big deal here. Yeah, I mean, they give them away. So if you go down to the far side of the fair where Commissioner Gibson comes in with the cornucopia on the back of the truck and everything, there's a biscuit stand. Pretty nice. I mean, it's been there forever. And they've got it set up so they've got all these biscuits, and then they've got this little device where it pokes a hole in it and pushes a squirt of syrup in it for you. And it's all free. You just get walk in and get biscuits and and your syrup there, man. It's pretty close to the Malone's Taffy stand if anybody's trying to get reference points for the biscuit. But yeah, that's been going on forever. Yeah, that when I was a kid, like he said, I don't know if they do it at every fair, but we have the biscuit
I've
stand.
never seen it before, never heard of it.
Big white, just wooden stand, and people getting those biscuits to you hot, and, ready to go. And there's no limit. It's not like you can't come back and get another one.
Yeah.
It's one of the great little treats of the fair.
So when, my family moved to Oxford when I was in second grade. I had just turned 8 years old. But I remember before we moved, we lived in Dyersburg, Tennessee. So the extreme western part of Tennessee, right there on the river, kind of across from Missouri. And it was Dyer County, D-Y-E-R. And I remember us going to the Dyer County Fair. And then I remember a few trips to the Mid-South Fair. Like the fair in Memphis was a big deal. The fairgrounds right there where the Coliseum is, and Liberty Land was across the way. And it was a big, big deal. And you could go on the wristband day where you paid $5 and you got the little string wristband and you could ride everything. It was great. I'm embarrassed to say that I've never been to the Mississippi State Fair.
It's like the Memphis one. I've never been to the Memphis Fair, but the Mississippi State Fair is definitely a lot of fun. Been going
Andy Gibson's probably screaming at me right now. I can't believe you've never been to the state
Well, you're
fair.
going to have to get in the truck then as he brings it in to open the fair. There's a parade, and they shoot a cannon off over there, and he has all the produce and beautiful Mississippi items that have been grown in the back of his old truck.
Does he fire the cannon, or is there
that's left to the professionals. The pros with the military uniforms are the ones that do that, from my experience.
Yeah, very good.
But yeah, the fairgrounds is a cool place. It really
Somebody
is.
says apple fritters at the Amory Railroad Festival.
I'm in. Mama made the fritters, and the apple ones had the little green apple tree in the yard out there, and they'd start falling. She'd go get them and chop them up and make the syrup for them, and she called them tarts, but same thing. Yeah.
A buddy of mine says the biscuits and molasses are classic.
Oh, it is.
Always got them at the fair.
If you've never done that, you've missed out, brother.
Okay.
You need
a big biscuit guy. Don't mind syrup on biscuits.
No, they
would be where would I rank syrup?
Well, see, they punch a hole in it, so it's not really on it. It's like a filled donut. They punch a hole and then jam that shot of inside of it while it's hot. So, yeah, you're not going to get it all over yourself.
Zach in Oxford says it's not the Memphis Fair. It's I said the Mid-South Fair.
Yeah, I said the Memphis Fair. I don't. Yeah, that would be me. You said Mid-South Fair.
Zach, I can't be responsible for everything that comes out of Lance's mouth.
Yeah. I wasn't shooting for accuracy.
It's the Mid-South Fair in Memphis at the Mid-South Fairgrounds and the Mid-South Coliseum.
Yeah, I knew there was that connection with Liberty Land. That was it. Yeah, for a long time.
Yeah, they make the syrup on site.
Really? Oh, it's good stuff. I will say one of my favorite treats. Yeah.
I'm 71. My parents said they took biscuits and syrup for lunch. It was called biscuit punch because the hole was made with your finger.
Yeah, they use a little device so they're not poking their finger in it, but it has a little poke hole, and then they jam. It's on the syrup dispenser, the molasses dispenser. They push a hole in it, and it comes out, and it's perfect. Good stuff.
In terms of condiments on a biscuit, I'm not anti-syrup at all. But it's probably like 5 or 6 down on the list.
Yeah, I want like 8 chunks of butter, and then it just melt all over it. That's my favorite.
Cinnamon sugar on a biscuit, oh, so good. Honey, molasses.
My dad used to
jelly.
He'd take the
peach jelly. Might get to syrup then.
Yeah, my dad would take the syrup. He would take he loved grape jelly, still does, and the butter, and he'd mix it all in a little. Kind of a concoction, and then that was what he would put on his biscuit was the mix of butter and grape jelly. Still does it. That's his way of rolling.
You know what else is really cool is a small town rodeo. Now I understand we got Dixie Nationals at the fair. And that is a big operation. That's high end stuff. That's a rodeo. But is there anything that's more fun? Especially out west. You ever been to a rodeo out west?
No, I have not. No, I've been to some bullfights in Mexico, but no rodeos out west.
So a couple of years ago, we took a family vacation to Montana. I went to Whitefish, and about 30 minutes away, there was a pretty good local rodeo outside of Kalispell. And man, when that, local pageant queen rode in with the American flag and everybody stood up for the national anthem and they played God Bless the USA, I mean, you'd have think I'd never been out of the house. I got tears streaming down my face. It's like, this is Americana personified. Love it. Love going down memory.
Good morning, Mississippi. You're starting your day off right. Welcome to Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
I promise to move on from the nostalgia of the fair, and I'm using the fair lowercase, so it can be whatever fair you grew up going to. But as an offshoot of that conversation, we got to condiments on biscuits, and my brain stumbled. It sometimes does. Kind of like Chuck Schumer's. I promise I'll connect the dots here in just a second. I completely forgot something that is at the top of my condiments on a biscuit list. I just don't get it often enough. Chocolate gravy. You get either homemade biscuits or some good Sister Schubert's biscuits or Mary B's biscuits. You open that bad boy up and you drizzle that hot chocolate gravy. I mean, it's cocoa and sugar and butter, and I guess there's maybe a little bit of milk in it. Have you had that before, Lance?
Not really. I mean, I've had chocolate, syrup on them before, but nothing that high end.
We're not talking Hershey's chocolate syrup. We're talking about made on the stovetop from scratch.
No, my mama now, she would make the cakes that way, but I never had a biscuit with her drizzle, and it sounds amazing.
I mean, you can hurt yourself.
Yeah, I'd eat until I popped.
Hurry.
I love chocolate. Love the real chocolate, made on the stove with the butter and the sugar and the cocoa. Chocolate gravy, as Ricky says, is the bomb. Yes, it is. And then Thomas, of course, it would be Thomas that says, I want mustard on my biscuits.
All right, Thomas, you do that. There better be some sausage there if you're throwing mustard on it, too.
Some deer sausage on that, please.
Jeff in Grenada says, put Blackburn on the plate and smash butter into it and then mix it up well and then dip the biscuit.
I like the way that sounds, too.
Here we go. Water, sugar, and cocoa. That's all. It's cooked down to reduce it.
Yep.
And let me tell you, that is the recipe, because that one comes from Mama Jane.
Yeah, it's Mama's recipe, and it'll leave that little sheen across it.
It's funny you say that, because that probably was Mama's recipe. But now, for my money, that is Jane's recipe, and I think Christmas morning was the last time we had that.
You need to tell her to get on that a little more often, the way you sound. That could be your breakfast each day.
Yeah, Ricardo's waistline does not need that to happen any more often than it does, but makes the anticipation so much better.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's like anything you get once or twice a year. It just tastes better. Even if it's simple, it just tastes better.
Just a couple of other things from the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395, 601-879-4395. The best teams know how to get better. That's why C Spire constantly enhances their wireless, fiber internet, and business solutions for you. Visit cspire.com. Today's C Spire, inspired by you. Grandma always had butter sugar biscuits for breakfast. That's from Mike in Columbus. Here's one from a 601 number. It's a coup if you can get your political candidates to get a time slot to serve biscuits at the fair booth. Congressional and Senate candidates serve them. Talking about the
election
Mississippi
years,
State Fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I doubt they'll be down there on the non-election year. But I'm just taking a stab.
It's an off year.
Stab
I'll see you in two. Yeah. Finally, Mike in Gulfport. Haven't been to the fair in many years, but the mention of Pronto Pups and biscuits has me ready. A corn dog just can't compare to a Pronto Pup. All right, I told you I'd connect the dots when I mentioned Chuck Schumer. I forgot how much I love chocolate gravy. Chuck Schumer forgot something that he said in the exact same press conference answering a different question. Take a listen. Chucky.
Americans are noticing. The polls this week show Trump has the lowest 100.
Oh, no. You can't. You're killing me. I got a buffering? That's no good. Let's try one more time.
Crypt keeper.
Day approval rating since they started polling.
All right, so he's saying Trump has the
80
lowest
years ago, the lowest
100-day approval polling since they started those polling numbers. That's the premise here. It's not going to work. Good grief. That's so frustrating. All right, so the quote from Schumer was Trump has the lowest 100-day approval rating since they started polling. 2 minutes later, he gets a question. Senator, there's a poll out today that has your approval rating lower than any other congressional leader at 17%. Schumer said, polls come and go.
Hey, I got mine. I get mine to work if you want to listen to
Do it. Let's listen to it. We need to hear this from his mouth. I'm sorry.
Make sure
Thank you.
Volume's up here. Here we go.
The polls this week show Trump has the lowest 100-day approval rating since they started polling 80 years ago, the lowest. Even worse, 72% of Americans think it's likely that Trump's handling of the economy will walk us directly into a recession. In people who hate what Trump is proposing. Yes.
There's a poll out today that has your approval rating lower than any other congressional leader at 17%. Are you concerned that you may be a liability for your party?
Polls come and go. Our party is united. We're on our front foot. We're stepping forward and going after Trump and having real success. Yes.
Polls come and go.
Yeah.
Wow.
But after 80 years, this is, very indicative. Lowest ever. But
I got an update for you on the DeSoto County back and forth about the new district maps, the Senate district maps. You remember we spoke a couple of weeks ago with the Secretary of State about that. He was limited, if I remember, on what he could say, but we know that the meeting for the State Board of Election Commissioners that included the governor, the Secretary of State, and the Attorney General. From that, they submitted a map. An update for that, plaintiffs filed their response. They had a week to do that, saying that their map was better than the one that was submitted by the State Board of Election Commissioners. The court has given the SBEC until Friday of this week to try to work out a solution with the plaintiffs. And the State Board of Election Commissioners said, no thanks. We're done here. So, it's going to be left up to that 3-judge panel to decide which map works.
it seems like that'd be a very difficult thing to figure out, to try to get it perfect. I mean, honestly, I've looked at a lot of these maps, and to try to keep it relevant to the areas with population and all that, I can't imagine how they figured this out. Seems like a mess to try to come up with. But again, not complaining, it just seems difficult.
At some point, if you're on the State Board of Election Commissioners, you're like, we've given you like 4 different maps.
Yeah, like
you've got a problem with all of them. The judge panel keeps saying, well, you need to work together. Just draw a map. It's fine. Just draw a map. Tell us what the districts are so we can move forward and stop wasting time. Kind of feels that way at this point.
I mean, kind of with you on that. After you submit that many maps, and there's something wrong with every one of them, it's like, what are there guidelines here that you could have given us to begin with?
Yeah.
That would have been very helpful in knowing what you won't accept, because it seems like that may have been very important to know up front.
Yeah. You know that Harvard has been working on a report in which, well, the title of the final report is Presidential Task Force on Combating Anti-Semitism and Anti-Israel Bias. Donald Trump has gone after Harvard. Harvard was told they needed to explain their actions. And when you go into this report, and they actually outline some of the complaints from Jewish students at Harvard, and they outline some of the incidents that took place in the aftermath of October 7th, you are left with one question, in my mind. And that question is, if any minority group other than Jews were treated the way that Jewish students, staff, and faculty members were treated at Harvard, what would the response from the university have been? You're left to believe that Harvard and its leadership not only condoned, but actually encouraged the anti-Semitic behavior, the outright, overt, over-the-top intimidation and hatred directed at Jewish students at Harvard. Wouldn't have been tolerated for Muslim students, although there's a separate report coming out about that. Wouldn't have been tolerated for black students. Don't think it would have been tolerated for Asian students. We're back with you right after this.
From the Venable Glass.
Want to know what's being said in the halls of the Capitol? You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross continues on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Substitution, mass confusion, clouds inside your head. Involving all my energies until you visited. With your eyes of porcelain and a blue, they shock me into sense. You think you're so illustrious, you can't.
Last time with you, it's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. Glad to have you along for the ride. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross one last time. Thanks for joining us today. I do feel like I should give you a couple of examples and not just talk generally about that report from Harvard. The Presidential Task Force on Combating Anti-Semitism and Anti-Israel Bias. This is some of what was happening on the Harvard campus. Many Jewish and Israeli students were told their presence was offensive. Some were asked to denounce Israel to be considered one of the good ones. This came from every part of campus, including peers, instructors, and faculty members. Jewish students on academic trips were told that their, quote, Jewish tradition had become indistinct from a settler colonial project, close quote, and that they shared guilt for atrocities committed by Israel. After October 7th, Jewish students faced an avalanche of hatred on anonymous apps. This digital harassment contributed heavily to a climate of fear and isolation. Posts saying, quote, Israel deserved it, and it was surprising to see were upvoted, close quote. The report says it was surprising to see educated people post such horrible things. Some students posted images reading, decolonization is not a metaphor, and referring to Israeli or Jewish students as Israeli scum and Zionist dirtbags. Israeli students had it hard in certain classes and certain degree programs. One said every comment felt like it was being filtered through the Israeli is speaking. One administrator told a Jewish student that they were, quote, in a whole world of trouble, close quote, for deleting horrifically offensive anti-Semitic posts from a group chat. Meanwhile, at a Harvard law event for the families of the hostages, Harvard chose to move the Jewish students for safety reasons while protesters roamed around freely. Quote, they walk around like they own the place, close quote. This is Harvard gaslighting at the highest level. A university that talks about academic freedom, open thought, the most elite and prestigious university in the United States, if not the world, an education unmatched, all of those things. And there might not be a university that is faster to decry racism, misogyny, all the isms and the ists, right? Sexism. Homophobic tendencies. All of those things would be decried by Harvard, but the Jews, nope, they're a different category.
Yeah, back in...
If you support the Jews, you are a Zionist.
Well, if you just go back and do a little bit of research after 9/11, I don't think you saw the protests against the Muslim community on Harvard's campus. And then just about a year later, you have a huge rally, a couple hundred students and a lot of different diversity there in support of Israel and the Israeli Defense Force, May 6, 2002. So what has changed? I guess, why are the Jews now persona non grata on the campus where they were?
Harvard,
they were very welcome for a long time. What happened?
Harvard is not unique, though.
No.
It's a lot of university campuses. Thankfully, not in the southeastern United States. And isn't it funny? Not like ha-ha funny, but isn't it funny that the elite northeastern universities so look down at the South? Backwards, racist, bigoted. And yet it's universities in the South that are so much more welcoming, diverse, open to new ideas, while places in the ivory tower that is the Ivy League just hate-riddled, left-driven, left-funded cesspools. And it's a shame because some of the most wonderful educational institutions have been taken over. They've been co-opted. They've been infiltrated by the left, and then the left defends them. And I'm talking about the far left. Gaslighting of the highest order. Thanks for being with us. Mornings with Richard Cross. We hope you have a wonderful Thursday. For Lance, I'm Richard. Goodbye.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.